This is the kind of album that makes me kind of question exactly how valuable a review of mine really is at all. Not that I consider my opinion to have any sort of weight that another person's opinion wouldn't have really at all in any capacity, but I'm about to praise the fuck out of this album right here, but I could absolutely see someone listening to it and fucking despising it. The first Glass Beach album is very Marmite, you feel? I can't really picture someone not having a strong reaction to this album. Like, how could you hear this and just think, oh yeah, I've heard it before, it's just... sorry. This project is led by a man named Jay McClendon, who originally started making music under the name Cassio Dad. His voice reminds me of a weird mix of the dude from Remo Drive and Jeff Rosenstock. And I would say this Glass Beach album, a good way to put it would be, take the theatrical maximalism of a band like the Lemon Twigs, fuse that with the angsty emo outbursts of a guy like Jeff Rosenstock, and then throw in synths. Bam, you got Glass Beach. I could totally see Liam, Rick, and Josh Dollarsign all loving this, honestly. Maybe I'm way off, you might all hate it, who fucking knows, but I see the potential for you all to love it, so I'm just saying, if you haven't heard it, go listen. If you go back and listen to what he was dropping under Cassio Dad, and then you listen to Glass Beach, you can tell the musical vision is much more well realized here. Like, to me, like, one track into this Cassio Dad album, I was like, yeah, I can tell he was going for this. However, Glass Beach thematically seems to be more about the world at large as opposed to the internal demons he was confronting on that Cassio Dad album. And most of the writing on this album sees Jay sort of making these witty and detailed little observations on specks of life that I'm assuming he's just kind of witnessed over the years. It's all fueled with a ton of expression. The vocalist, Jay McClendon, he is insanely expressive, and his voice may piss you off. And if you've watched me for a while, you know I sometimes hate albums strictly based off the singing. Whether it be Sun Coming Down, Schlagenheim, Wide Awake, sometimes the singing is all it takes for me to really find it hard to enjoy an album. Sometimes I just don't want to hear a specific voice in a certain context, and it just doesn't click with my ears. And when you don't like a person's voice, it's a tough barrier to get past because you're hearing it the whole time in the forefront of the song. And yeah, I could definitely see that being the case with this album. This dude's voice it's whiny, it's high-pitched, his melodies are incredibly burlesque and emotive, and he really pushes his voice on a lot of occasions to the point where it can sound potentially a bit grating. However, I ended up warming up to it pretty quickly. And I actually think on some of these tracks, like Bone Skull or... he hits the notes shockingly well. He is a talented singer, for sure, in regards to just, like, whether or not he's on key, on pitch, he has definitely got skill. But I think he absolutely prioritizes just inner raw feeling over being on pitch, which ultimately I think gives this album that much more strength in the long run. And musically, this thing is an absolute delight. This album feels as angsty as it does video gamey. Like, look at the pianos at the end of the track Bedroom Community. They are Super Mario as fuck. The track Rat Castle is one of my favorites. It's only 2 minutes 40 seconds. It's one of the more like sort of transitional moments on the album, but the peppy, bubbly drums and synths on this thing sound like Banjo-Kazooie taking a wild acid trip. And there are just so many moments where this thing will just out of nowhere break into this fucking funky ass groove. Like on the opening track, it starts off with these huge triumphant horns, really presenting something massive and ambitious, but then like when the beat comes in, it's so damn groovy, it's irresistible. My favorite song on this album is by far Yoshi's Island. That title alone tells you video games are definitely an influence. His singing is so fucking infectious on this thing. The dreamy guitar passages work perfectly alongside the synth work too. Everything about this instrumental is just musical sonic bliss, and the final outburst at the end is so damn gratifying. However, this thing can get a little bit excessive with its maximalism at points. Like the track Bedroom Community kinda ends like 27 times. There are so many points on that track where you feel like you're hearing what you think is the climax, but then when that climax finishes, there's another even bigger climax. It's like it teases the ending so much, it just gets a little bit obnoxious. And also the first two tracks are structurally scarily similar as well, and the title track Glass Beach and the closer as well. Both have very beautiful moments in them, but I think they just kind of shoot for way too much. And it kind of ends up feeling as if these tracks are sort of prioritizing being as astoundingly huge as possible over actually being as moving or as compelling as they could be. I also think think some of the transitions between tracks are a bit awkward, like the track Bone Skull just cuts off as it was building up, and I find it a little bit awkward, even though that track is still musically really nice. Same goes for the track Soft, which this track musically sounds like you're just lost in a daze, just completely infatuated with something that you just cannot believe is real. But once you get properly locked into that daze, the track just cuts off and moves into the track. But despite all of that, some of the smaller moments, some of the more quiet moments are actually some of the most beautiful in my opinion as well, like the tracks Forever and Calico, which both sound like the musical equivalent to Night in the Woods. It's cozy, it's wholesome, this thing is dripping with charm and just pure inner love and passion, just internal infatuation just all being exploded into the forefront. This whole album does have this essence of the world's fucked, everything's shit, but fuck it, we're going to enjoy it while it lasts kind of thing, and I think there is just an endless amount of charm there. It's flawed for sure, but it's a personal favourite this year, and I would love to see what you guys think. I could totally see people really finding this horrible, I could totally see people finding this amazing. I'm personally going to go with an 8 out of 10. I really love this album quite a lot. Definitely a few improvements that could be brushed up on, but I just find this thing endlessly lovable, ultimately. It's such a unique record too, a really one-of-a-kind experience. I've not really heard anything else like it this year. Thank you Jay McClendon and co for making such a wonderful release here. I cannot wait to see what happens in the future with this band, and I love the cover art too. The cover art is so great. I love the cover art as well. I love this thing. I think it's wonderful. I'm gonna end it there. Thank you for watching my review. I'll see you on the next review. Bye!